The story begins with a wide shot, music that's stirring, not sappy, not sad, but fully orchestrated. It's clear this is going to be a production. Then from the wide shot, we go to a close-up, right to the story of an 83-year-old woman who hand-stitched masks out of faded fabric. Notice hand-stitched and faded as adjectives. It implies simplicity and modesty. The woman left 20 masks and vanished. The best heroes are the ones who don't hang around to be thanked, like Superman. They just vanish when the work is done. But we see the evidence of her work on the faces of the healthcare workers, who, interestingly, are young people. A senior saving the young people. It's a powerful turn of the metaphor, where young people typically are showing care for the powerless senior. From that close-up, we're back to wide shots of the city. See how this story is sequencing from wide to close-up to wide again. It happens over and over. I'd say that the music is overpowering at this point. Musical scores should build to moments and then vanish. When they're this powerful for a sustained period, the score loses the ability to stir the audience when you need it most. At 41 seconds into the piece, the story sets a premise of national pride, how Korea is different from the rest of the world. While the virus spread from person to person around the world and people were shunning each other, Koreans came together. I can imagine every country would make some version of this claim, and it doesn't make this claim in this video to be untrue. They don't claim that Koreans were more generous, more kind, more compassionate than the rest of the world. That would have been too much. The exhausted, fully suited up healthcare worker was the perfect closing shot for the opening opus. The music ends, we dip to black. It's time for a transition of mood and content. The opening was emotion. Now it's time for some facts and truths, or we'll begin to suspect this is some kind of propaganda video. At 59 seconds, the transition begins, and notice the industrial-sounding music when the text says that Koreans are rolling up their sleeves. The music implies work. At 1:06 in, the images are so powerful because they are so thoughtfully framed. When you can't see the whole person inside those suits, the eyes tell us the story of determination and youth. Notice how the image is framed on the thirds, so the power of the image is not stuck in the middle of the frame. The third drags our eyes around the whole frame. The editor is constantly moving from wide shot to close-ups, and the images are of working people, everyday people, not officials making pronouncements. At 1:25 in, notice that the text says voluntary doctors and nurses flock to affected areas. The word voluntary is key. In fact, it might have been even more powerful if the word voluntary had been in the power position of the sentence, at the end. Now, I'm not sure whether doctors and nurses flock, a more powerful and descriptive verb, would have helped this scene. Doctors and nurses arrived in the most infected areas. They didn't wait to be called. They volunteered. The next scene shows that people without medical degrees found ways to help too, serving food. And landlords, usually portrayed as greedy, become charitable. At 1:42, the video goes back to a touchstone event for South Koreans, the IMF crisis. The story revisits the remarkable moment when Koreans donated their own gold possessions to help pay the government debts to the International Monetary Fund. The country was about to lose the ability to borrow money. 3.5 million Koreans, a fourth of the population, donated almost $2 billion worth of gold necklaces, rings, and family heirlooms. The production makes the campaign look like World War II era, but it happened in 1998. At 2:23, there's a swipe at countries like China, who understated the size of their outbreaks early on. The video brags about Korea's transparency in action. And importantly, the video says Koreans should be proud that the world sees their actions as examples to others. Notice that the video shows media mentions from all over Europe and the United States. By this part of the video, the pulsating music has been up so long the viewer has no energy left. At 3:43, it seems like even the editor is getting bored, and now is using wild wipes to add some sort of visual interest to the nonstop use of workers in goggles. And now the video loses a chance for a gut punch. It ends with a message that this was a good lesson to learn. It could have come around to a simple story of that elderly woman who sewed 20 face masks. It could have been a call to action of unity and pride. The three big lessons I take from this video are: tell big stories, through small examples. Except for the mask-sewing senior, we really don't know any individual. The coronavirus pandemic is too big to understand until we illustrate it with faces and personal stories of loss, heroism, and joy. When you add music, it can't just be a non-stop heart-pounding score. Build in highs and lows. Quiet leads to emotional peaks. And remember substance over style. As this story loses focus in new examples, the editor tries to sustain your interest with wild page wipes and production that overwhelms the still images. Stay true to the core, the focus of the story. Tell me the story in 3 words, then stick to it. Is it citizens beat virus? Volunteers save Korea? Korea leads world? Start there, end there, and never stray. I hope this deconstruction helps you to think about what makes your stories work, whether you're producing content for a news program or TikTok or anything in between. I'm Tompkins from the Poynter Institute.